What's cool now, but probably won't be in 5 years. A lot of the stuff I see people doing on TikTok seems like the kind of thing you'd be embarrassed about in a few years. Honestly, I'm embarrassed about pretty much everything I did at that age. I'm just glad my exploits were long ago enough that there isn't a digital record of it, lol. I'm very lucky that all my terrible homemade singing and talent show videos are on some dusty old VHS in a basement, rather than floating around the internet. There's a video somewhere in someone's basement of me acting in a Silence of the Lambs parody for French class. I hope to God they've taped over it. If it makes you feel any better, if they haven't maintained the tape or preserved it, by now it's either lost the data stored on it, or will lose the data soon. Probably most popular YouTubers as of now. I thought Ray William Johnson and Smosh would rule for the next 10 years in 2011. You might be right. Smosh, now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Smosh kinda got screwed. When they were big, YouTube didn't really have ads and didn't pay very well. So Smosh signed a contract with a like management company that eventually went belly up. Thankfully Rhett and Link saved Smosh by purchasing the rights and making them a part of their brand Mythical. So they now film at the same studio as GMN. Didn't they have real trouble when the algorithm started rewarding longer videos? If I recall, their bread and butter at the time were highly produced but shorter videos that got screwed over. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. My toddler willingly giving me kisses. Father on 13 and 11. Why oh boys here, if frequent physical affection is a normal part of your dynamic now, that hopefully won't change too much. In front of their friends my existence is a horrifying embarrassment. At home I get hug attacks all the time. Late 20s guy here, and I can confirm. My dad was always affectionate towards my brother and I'd say I dared to hug my dad in front of my friends who knew me, but in public we'd both opt for a fist bump. When I was 18 over 19 my dad told me he was happy that I still hugged him, which reminded me that I've ever only seen him shake his own father's hand. Broke my heart, and I internally vowed to give him bear hugs for the rest of our lives. I love my dad, and it's important to me that he knows it. This is very sweet. But it unfortunately makes me think of my relationship with my dad. While never bad, I think we only hugged a few times, ever, aside from sometimes at initial greetings, when I'd visit, after moving out of the house. Current plastic surgery trends, to meet the current IG standards. I fear for a lot of people who have had BBLs and facial surgery that the look will become outdated and permanently associated with late 2010s and early 2020s, kind of how like there are plastic surgery trends associated with the 90s/2000s. What trends associated with the 90s/2000s? Lots of women had skinny eyebrows tattooed on their faces, tattoo lip liner, overly processed bleached hair and oddly large implants. Those things are pretty tough to reverse. Those round implants to implants that screamed implants. I don't mind the concept of plastic surgery, but do think it looks best when the desired outcome is to look natural. Plenty of celebrities have had almost every part of their face and body touched up but just look like the perfect version of themselves, rather than looking like the ideal 2021 Instagram model. Subscribing to multiple streaming platforms. Isn't that why cable doesn't exist anymore? Edit. Yes, I know it works out cheaper now. In 2024, computers, tablets, and phones will be part of the broadcast license fees that we will have to pay in Ireland. So, that will cost me an extra €160 plus subscription to platforms. While I agree, right now subscribing to Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus is still cheaper than a normal cable bundle that would show me fewer of the things I want to see, and not whenever I want to see them. Cable TV is ridiculously expensive. Hell, when I cancelled DirecTV 5 years ago my bill was $140. You can do Youtube, Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Maximum and still save $40. Well, and that's if you don't share. For me and probably most people, it's actually even better of a deal. My cousin has Hulu, my parents have Disney Plus and HBO Max, my brother has Netflix and Ad TV, my other brother has Prime Video and YouTube TV, so basically right now I can lodge into all of those things and technically I pay for none of it. I cover NFL Sunday Ticket with my college discount during the fall, so we can all watch NFL games. Zoom calls. I don't want to go back to the office, but I can't take 5 more years of these. As much as I don't like video conferencing, it was way better than just phone conferencing. People always talking over everyone, since you don't see the person's facial cue. Jokes on you, still happens in video conference calls at my company, because we're all nerds and hate showing our face, if we don't have to. As much as I don't like video conferencing, I hate in-person meetings and the time it takes to get to them more. Edited to at, and finding a room the right size, and waiting a few minutes to X to arrive, and the small talk beforehand, and sitting there politely after the meeting turns into 2 people discussing something they could do without everyone else there, and making sure my clothes match, and look nice enough, and feeling my phone vibrate, but not looking at it out of politeness, only to wonder for the full meeting, whether there's some kind of emergency I'm not attending to, and the polite chatter after, and the awkward 15 minutes between your meeting and the next one, where you can't actually get anything done, but if you were home you'd be able to make a snack. 5-day work week. That's never been cool, we just accept it. Let's start by touching on the 7-day week. Thousands of years ago, the Babylonians believed 7 planets existed. To honor that, they created the 7-day week. Back then, working all 7 days was thought to increase productivity. By the summer of 1886, workers were fed up with the status quo. No surprise there, Sunday Funday can't be a thing if you have to work. The US Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions called for 8-hour workdays, and when that deadline wasn't met, protesters took to the streets. What started as peaceful demonstrations on the streets of Chicago turned into violent rallies, leaving 7 police officers and 4 workers dead. Those rallies put the 8-hour day, 40-hour workweek issue on the map both nationally and internationally. In 1916, the feds passed an act which required an 8-hour day and dot. Despite the new rule, plenty of workers were still unprotected. In 1919, 4 million workers decided they were fed up and went on strike. That was 20% of the industrial labor force at the time. About 19 years later, President FDR signed the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, creating the right to a minimum wage and dot. Now things are starting to sound familiar. Roosevelt wasn't the first person to institute the 5-day workweek in the US, though. The Ford Motor Company is well known for scaling back from 48 hours per week to 40 in 1914, thanks to Henry Ford. And even earlier, 1908 to be exact, a New England cotton mill set up the same schedule, allowing its Jewish workers to observe Sabbath on Saturday and Christian workers their day on Sunday. Economist John Maynard Keynes predicted in 1928 that technological advancement would bring the workweek down to 15 hours within 100 years. Looks like we still have about 10 years to get there. Half the fashion trends going on right now. I just see all these celebrities with super long nails, giant sunglasses, and outfits with really weird patterns, fabrics, and cutouts, and I know that one day we will look back on them and say, how did anyone ever think that looked good? And then those trends will be back in style in 2040, mark my words. We look back on the 2000s and say, wow, low-rise jeans? Gross. But they are on their way back into style. Just you wait. Rule of 20. Soon everyone will have their thongs peeking out of their pants again, I promise you. In a weird way, I'm looking forward for the late 2000s/early 2010s pop culture to be brought back by the kids. It would be very amusing to see those swag glasses and Cookie Monster hats and scene kid haircuts be iconized like 80s and 90s fashion has been. Oh, apparently this is already a trend on the rise. There's an entire sect of baby Emmas that idolize the mid-2000s. Yep. My little cousin is one of those girls. Loves all of that style. Since I was into all of the scene in the mid-2000s, she's asked me for advice on making her style legit, so I help her out with it. It's led to me getting her into more of the punk/metal bands that I was into at that time, so I feel like it's a fair trade-off. I've also given her some of my old band merch, shirts, posters, etc, so she can rep some of the OG life hacks. Since they have taken over YouTube, it just will be bland after amount of time, because a lot of it is just BS and many just don't work now. Many I've seen so many stupid harmful things they are doing, like OHPUTORTNFOILIN baylines and EPRTIN microwave TO SM off baylines. Yay, like that. Not just the life hacks, but also the DIYs and instructional videos. A lot of them just seem to be people desperate to get clicks to get paid, if that's even still a thing. I got on it the other day because I was trying to figure out a problem with some LED lighting. I for real saw a video a guy posted that boiled down to get a good light bulb and switch it out, see if that works. Excuse me, did you just post a video telling me how to change a light bulb? I want that 3 minutes of my life back. I feel like the DIY trend as a whole died in 2016. The similar breed that's barely surviving is the life hacks channels, and most of their main audience is just children, so they may grow out of that phase. They are spam channels, and that's why they are all so similar. Anri Arden from How to Cook That does a great job debunking those videos and explaining why they are a bad concept. Microtransactions. I mean in-game purchases in Fortnite and Roblox with kids. We got our son a green light card to get him into buying things with his own allowance. Problem is, as soon as it hits his account, I see a purchase in one of these games. I've explained to him about saving, and part of that allowance goes into a savings account, but the part he can spend, he spends. I hope he looks back on what he spent his money on and realizes that $5 for a stupid character skin was not worth it. Edit. I see both sides of this. He's having fun, and it's his money, so it shouldn't matter. It's hard for me to understand how having a $5 skin makes the game more enjoyable. I'm 40 and at that age we earned our fun by earning the skins in the game. Lol. Anyhow, I'm just worried about impulse control. I grew up poor, and I've lived with people who spend as soon as they get it. It's not a good trait. At the end of the day, it's his money, and if he's happy it's all that matters, but I still hope that spending money on virtual outfits is not cool in 5 years. As much as I hate microtransactions, I massively prefer the ones that are cosmetic features like character skins than the ones that pay for progression in the games. Edit. Specifically, the ones that pay for the thing you want, not just a loot box with a small chance of it. Cosmetics in games are almost a necessary evil if you know about a game's development cycle. Artists are usually sitting on their hands at the end of a development cycle, while programmers iron out bugs. In the past this resulted in layoffs 3 to 6 months before a game's release. Cosmetics give these game artists something to do during that time, and layoffs right before a release aren't as commonplace as a result. Facebook. Kids don't use that because it sucks. Millennials are leaving in droves. Facebook isn't cool right now. Hasn't been for many years. Hasn't been since 2015/2016. I think its main problem was just the lack of anonymity. Once you were on it, everything was displayed. Also, just seeing your relatives post as well as the whole privacy scandal left a bad taste. Twitter is still the same, yet has probably gotten worse in the past few years. Insta and Snap are still popular, but I feel like the former will be the new FB within 10 years. Also the fact that those allowed stuff to disappear after 24 hours and you could post far shorter yet funnier stuff. Facebook went downhill once they opened it up to everyone's moms and dads and aunties. I was finishing college, and once our families got on there and started stalking us, we stopped posting as much. We used to be much more free with things we said. Now it's filled with a bunch of Fake political news. In the UK, incessant advertising for gambling. It is disgusting to me that almost half of adverts on TV and online are for this putrid activity. It should be seen in the same way as smoking or drinking and not normalized. Imagine having an addiction to something and seeing it everywhere you go. Not cool at all. Hopefully those in charge will pull their heads out their and change this, as I'm sick of it. Absolutely agree. Worst decision ever was to open up the shop windows so you could see in, remove the 9% betting tax and allow advertising. I used to run a bookies when I was in my early 20s, and I've seen the desperity on addiction firsthand. Also, these firms target low-income areas for their betting shops. Immoral doesn't even begin to cover it. Yeah, I'm an American. Started watching EPL season before last, and it's just non-stop betting ads everywhere and often in Asian letters. Biggest shock I had moving to the UK: it's illegal to advertise gambling where I'm from, and there are far fewer betting shops too. In some areas of the UK you have 5 on a single road. Ironically, this has been driven by government policy. In an effort to crack down on betting, a limit was imposed on the number of fixed odd gambling machines per shop, which has led to a massive takeover of retail space by betting shops, particularly in lower socioeconomic areas, hence why there are now so many betting shops everywhere. I would say Minecraft, but trying to kill, that is like trying to invade Russia in winter. It won't be cool in 5 years, but in 10 it will boom again. History repeats. Nah, it's like Tetris. It's easily accessible for every generation, a good way to kill time, and will probably just stay the same with only a couple updates for the next 30 years. I'm gonna go to college next year, but there are kids my age who are still playing it, as well as kids who are in middle school that are using it to learn about coding through command blocks. The Mojang team has been releasing pretty massive updates almost yearly now, and it looks like they'll continue to do so. This most recent one, they updated the graphics engine as well, so they can continue to work on and optimize it. That's why it's still going as strong as it is. The good people at Mojang have poured their souls into this funky little cube game. Hopefully those fake pointy acrylic nails. I think those have been around for many years. The only thing I like about this trend is that it's something women do 100% for themselves. I know this for certain, because every man I have ever met thinks they are disgusting. They are so impractical, but there's just such an oddly powerful feeling that comes with wearing them, and tapping them on stuff is the best. Plus long nails equals more space for cool nail art. I've only done them a few times, but I totally get it. Also, I'm small and have the tiniest hands and short fingers. Nails elongate them and make them look much less stumpy and more feminine. They are impractical and sort of a waste of money, but I agree that I feel boss in them. Plus, as someone who worked as a waitress, they made my hands look pretty, which is a plus when a lot of your job consists of handing things out to people. Nail polish chips way too easily, and that is not food safe nor cute. Pokémon Go. Kidding, it's going to life forever until I catch them all. Pokémon Go is still a thing. I thought it died back in 2016. That was crazy, huh? People were walking into traffic. Dude, I had a blast for those first couple months. Staying out with friends until 4 AM, meeting dozens of strangers in random places in the middle of the night. It was the best. We were constantly finding new groups to hang with. Or those times when you'd see a nearby Snorlax on that Poke Map site, so you'd floor it to the edge of town behind a Rite Aid or something, only to find a traffic jam of like 60 other young adults back there all looking for the same Pokémon. Absolutely crazy the effect it had on teens and young adults around the globe. Everyone was out playing it 24/7. I remember we'd go to the Santa Monica Pier outlet and stay there till the sun came up, and people were literally jumping off the pier into the water to catch Pokémon that were too far away. Crazy times, man. The rare plant frenzy that's blown up in the last year. I guarantee you in 5 years, the people who went crazy paying over $500 for a plant cutting to have some unattainable item will end up selling them, or giving them away, or throwing them away when the trend is over. I got into collecting succulents a while ago, went to a plant show, and people were in a frenzy to buy tiny specimens for $100. No thanks. I bought one plant for $30 that turns out to be a noxious weed covering huge swaths of land in other parts of my state, NSW. Yep, sounds about right. The plants are beautiful, but there's just no reason in my head that makes spending that much to own a plant worthwhile. It is mostly all about the brownie points. Or it'll be a very common plant, because so many people think they'll get rich growing their own plants and selling cuttings. It's possible, but I doubt the people who buy these plants for the trend will be that resourceful. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing here, but there's definitely exploitation happening in the grow nurseries and the consumers are unaware of this. I work in the field, and so many growers will buy out the rare plants, price them high, because they know people will pay whatever for them, and the consumer will buy it, to the point that they are even more endangered. The issue isn't the trend, it's the exploitation. They're rare because they're endangered already. I'm probably biased and more protective of this than it needs to be, but I just see it going downhill. Vaping, I hope. Edit, my rationale here was coming from the perspective of seeing kids in middle school and high school vaping when these kids wouldn't be smoking cigarettes otherwise. Cigarettes were incredibly uncommon when I was in school, whereas now vaping among that age group is much more common. Thank you for the edit and clarification. For me it's the better alternative from a heavy smoker. Kids doing it when they weren't smokers is dumb as hell. Once had a teen vape in the library, and when the cops were called he was arguing the law with cop. Just FYI, it is banned on the library and the cops were called to bar him from the library for a year. Vaping helped me quit a 10-year addiction to cigarettes. It was a miracle for me. That's great for you. I know people who vape Juul pods at a rate of 1 a day they hate. It makes them feel like and they can't stop. It's not 100% a positive thing in the world. These people did not smoke before, not a single cigarette in their life. Hacking/security skills. Peoples that have hacking skills are currently seen like brilliant minds, and they are, and the public does not mind when peoples does that for knowledge, or if the target are the big corporations. The problem is the number of attacks that target health structures like hospitals, or people identities, people's money, non-profit foundations, etc. are increasing exponentially, and soon everyone will consider anyone with security knowledge potentially harmful, and a lot of people will be suspicious about this skills. Yeah, right, don't know you actually mean here. The fact that attacks are increasing means that type of work will continue to grow. There is no difference in the skill set of a white hat hacker and a black hat hacker. This field has become far more formalized in the last decade and will continue to go down that path for as long as it is possible to hack. Which will be as long as humans exist. What you're saying is akin to people hating locksmiths because break-ins increase. A doctor knows hundreds of ways to kill someone doesn't mean people are suspicious of their skill unless they are completely clueless. Hopefully everyone picks up the basics. Giving most people a smartphone is like putting a caveman in an apartment. They don't know to close their windows and lock the door when they are not there. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.